Hey, what up? It's Tampa Brad back at you with law number 27 of the 48 Laws of Power. Law number 27 is one of my favorite laws, and it is use people's need to believe to create a cult-like following. Or just a following. If you want to cult-like, you want to go full Monty with it. So the reason I love this law is that I love the idea of cult leaders. It's just hilarious to me when I see people do ridiculous things and being completely serious about it, and people doing things that don't make sense. So I get a lot of, I think it's funny that people are so apt to fall for things like the Nigerian prince scandal, I can't even think of any other cults right now, but it's so easy to get people to believe in cults because they just want to believe in something outside of themselves so easily. It's like organized politics, right? Like people just love going for the clickbait. That's why clickbait works. People love going for the instant gratification. I love watching other people do that, and I love them. I'm not judging them for it, but I still find it hilarious. So I love to play into that by joking that I'm a cult leader. That's why I have the beard and the man bun, and that's why I make videos and stuff like that, is because I'm the cult leader. So I resonate very deeply with this chapter, mostly because I just find it super entertaining. And excuse me, my Starbucks tea is jacking me up. But what I actually really like about this chapter, and what I find is very useful about it, is that the author Robert Greene lays out 5 simple steps to grow an extremely profitable and powerful following that actually gives you a lot of power as the leader of the group. So what does he say to do? We'll actually go through it. I took a couple of notes just so that I can read them off. So he says that there's 5 steps on how to build a cult following. And the first is to keep it vague and keep it simple. So we'll start with vague. Why do you want to be vague when you're starting to build a following? A lot of it is because if you're very clear in what you're saying, a lot of people will actually not be able to read into it what they need to see in order to follow you. So you're actually not even giving them the opportunity to follow you, because people, if they see something that's too clear, they think it's super simple and they gloss right over the nuance of what it says. So a lot of, like for example, a lot of Eastern philosophy will be extremely, extremely profound. Like if you think about what it means to live in the present moment, walk the razor's edge of now. That's an extremely profound statement if you're coming from a place of presence and you're really deeply engaged with the present moment and you're not caught up on thinking about what you're gonna eat later, or who you're gonna date next week or something like that. If you're not caught up in those mind things and those biological drives and you're actually attuned to presence, this statement, walk the razor's edge of now, is extremely, extremely powerful. It almost gives me goosebumps just talking about it. But the reason I go into that example is many people gloss over Eastern philosophy and it doesn't have as much of a cult following because it doesn't fulfill the need to be vague. So being vague is the first point. It allows people to read into whatever you're saying what they need to see in order to follow you. It's kind of the art of allowing a little bit. Then keep it simple. So people's issues in a very broad sense are usually deep-rooted in very complicated and complex things that happen to them in their life, or experiences they've been through, or circumstances of their childhood. And so to try to unravel that for every single person and try to promise to do that it's a bit of an insurmountable task, and to be honest, it sounds unbelievable, and so that makes it unbelievable. So people will not follow if your thing that you're offering them is too complicated. If they can't understand it in a bite-sized sentence, like, oh my God. The greatest example I can think of this, and you see it on many red hats: make America great again. Keep it vague and keep it simple. An amazing example, right? Yeah, Apollo's doing the mind-blown thing because his mind is blown. If you want to talk about building a cult following, Donald Trump is the king of that, and he doesn't wear a crown, he wears a red hat that says, make America great again. So that's just a great illustration of vague and simple. If it's simple, people can say it in 4 words or 5 words. They can just say it again and again. It applies to so many different situations, and it allows you and your whatever it is that you're doing to be at the forefront of their mind again and again and again. And that repetition is what allows you to rise in your power and start building that cult-like following. So that's Step 1, keep it vague, keep it simple. Step 2, emphasize visual and sensual over the intellectual. Now, when I say sensual, I don't mean like sex sensual, I mean like sense, like touch, tangible things, over intellectual. So things you can see, things you can touch, things you can smell. Emphasize that over things you can think about and logically say, yes, I agree with that. It's better to say, look, look at this table. How do you think this table came to be here? You can feel it. It's made of metal. It's rough. You can put things on it. It's sturdy. You can hold your Starbucks tea on it. If you can focus on something that's really there, that people can really feel, and you can almost get them into a state of, if you're leading and saying things that are true about a physical object or something that people can see, that's actually a hypnosis technique. And what it's called is pacing and leading. So what a lot of hypnotists will do is when they're trying to hypnotize large crowds, they'll talk about, in very general terms, the experience that the crowd should be having sitting in their seats. They'll say, you're sitting in your seat right now. You're breathing. You're looking up at the stage. The person to your right of you is, this far away. You can kind of see them out of the peripheral of their eyes. You're starting to get a little sleepy. Magicians and hypnotists will do that because once you say a couple things that the brain agrees with, the brain says, yes, I agree with that, he's right. Yes, I agree with that, he's right. Yes, I agree with that, he's right. The brain wants to just keep doing it. And even if you say something that's not necessarily true, you can suggest the brain, it's called auto-suggestion, you can suggest it into doing what you want. So by focusing on things that you can see and touch, it allows you to pace people into what you want them to believe. If it's intellectual, it's like, think about a car. It is a red car. It is a Honda Civic. It is a 4-cylinder. That's not gonna get people into any emotional state or an emotionally charged state and a non-intellectual state where they're going with what they feel. And going with what you feel is an extremely important part of growing a cult following. If you follow anybody who, like a rapper, for example, a rapper like Travis Scott, he's not telling people like, think about having sexual relations with women. He's saying, hoes, he's like saying stuff like that. He's talking about like the feeling, like the vibe, like the feel. And so he's not focused on the thought of, I will do this and then I will make this money and then I will get this bread. No, he's talking about the feeling, okay? So focus on visual and sensual over the intellectual, that's step 2. Step number 3 is borrow the forms of organized religion to organize the group. So this is huge. So use the way that organized religion is structured and use the power of that type of structure to empower your own organization. So whatever it is that you're building, however you structure it, borrow the way that, say, a church would be structured in order to convey to you the same type of authority that would be conveyed to a priest or a pastor or a minister or someone who's at the head of a large congregation who people look to in a very non-intellectual, very spiritual and feeling connection, right? You want to have the same type of structure so that people look to you like that and so that you can pull on those same heartstrings for whatever your ends and means are, hopefully good. That's what these are about, by the way. This is about building your power so you can do good things with it, not bad things. So you got to be really wise about the way you're using these things. That's law number 3, super simple. Law number 4, disguise your source of income. So the author talks about as you grow your cult following, eventually it's going to become monetary because you're going to need to be compensated. This cult following is going to take up so much of your time that you're going to need to be compensated in some way from it. So eventually it's going to become your entire income if you really do it correctly and you follow the other steps that the author, Robert Greene, lays out in this chapter. So what you cannot do is say, oh, I made this many thousands of dollars from my followers this month. No, that is not the way to do it. The way to do it is to disguise your income. So have a potential nebulous source of income that people think you're making your money from. Then over here, have your follower base actually feeding you all the income that you're actually getting, right? But it needs to not be overt. People don't want to be thinking that they're, paying your way through life. They want to think that you have this way of just attracting money to you, and it's just, this nebulous way of, money just flows to that person. They're just like, they live a lavish lifestyle because they just earned it. They're just like, that they're just special. They wind up actually putting you on a pedestal, and to some extent it's a limiting belief, but it is what it is. You can draw on it. We tend to tell stories about other people. Remember, this is from another video, and I've talked about this in a lot of videos. When we don't know all the facts about people, we tend to fill in the blanks with crazy stories. So draw on that by disguising your income. That's principle number 4. Step number 4 of growing a cult following. And then step number 5, set up an us versus them dynamic. So this draws on a principle that's similar to a book that I read recently called Primal Branding. And Primal Branding is a book that is about how to grow a cult following around a brand. And what it talks about is you need to have your set parameters of your brand. You have to have your sacred words, you have to have your origin story, your leader. You have to have, this is part of having a primal brand, something that really sticks in people's mind, like Apple or Nike or Starbucks, something like that, is you have to have the outsiders, the them, the other people, the Dunkin' Donuts, bum, bum, bum. You have to have that because people need to have some sort of something to go against. A lot of people who are in logic need to be pushing against something solid at all times. So if you don't provide that to them, they'll go and find it somewhere else. That's the point of this kind of like building like a cult-like following, is you're engaging all of the person's emotional and mental needs, and so they don't need to go anywhere else, so they devote all their attention at you. In the book Reality Transurfing, they call it, they're charging your pendulum. You create a pendulum that is your group, and people charge that pendulum when you allow them to, when you create a system that catches all of their needs and you allow them to really throw their energy into that system. So again, number 5 is create an us versus them dynamic. Obviously, that can be very win-lose. It's not about hurting people. It's about, there always has to be an outsider. You know, Starbucks is not out there throwing rocks through the storefronts of Dunkin' Donuts that we know of. But they do definitely have an us versus them dynamic, and Dunkin' Donuts is definitely the outsiders. Starbucks is a story brand because they've created it as, you know, we are the people that, you know, we drink Starbucks. Like, we don't drink that Dunkin' Donuts crap. So a lot of other brands have done a very good job of doing that. So that being said, how do you apply this to your life? And I know we're getting low on battery, so I'll wrap it. But how do you apply this to your life? Just try out the first step. Just try out the first step, which again, is keeping it vague and keeping it simple. What happens when people hear ideas like that from you and you give them with passion, you get them emotionally charged? I think you'd be stunned by what the outcome is. This will be a short one, we'll wrap it here. Thank you for watching, I really appreciate it. If you've not already, follow me on Instagram @TampaBrad. Also hit the subscribe button and hit the bell. We're just cranking out videos, so we're gonna have a lot more coming. If you don't hit the bell, you're not gonna see my new videos and I'm gonna cry. But really, they're gonna bring you a lot of value, seriously. So hit the subscribe, hit the bell. I will see you in the next video. Thank you for watching. Peace.